For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the following items. A. Adopt Resolution R22-32 certifying unpaid utility charges and levying it as a special assessment to certain Winstead properties. B. Adopt Resolution 22-33 certifying the charges for the abatement of blight-in conditions and levying it as a special assessment to certain Winstead properties. C. Authorize the mayor to execute a 2023 joint and cooperative agreement for ongoing weekend use of law enforcement personnel and equipment with the city of Lester Prairie. D. Accept the voluntary resignation of Mr. Jake Herzog, as first captain of the Winstead Volunteer Fire Department effective December 31st, 2022. E. Approve the pledged securities that Security Bank and Trust Company has purchased for the city of Winstead for the month of October 2022. Approve the building permit report for the month of October 2022. Approve the financial report for the month of September 2022. Approve the claims for the list for November 15th, 2022. I need a consent agenda for this.
Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, and I abstain from voting on item E.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to second that.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There's no public hearing this evening. There's no old business this evening. The new business is the stormwater retention pond. Mr. Adam.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So this project is kind of a continuation of a previous project that we approved, or some previous work that we approved on this stormwater retention pond in Harvest Circle. We were notified, I think it's already been 2 years ago, of some damages being done in that stormwater retention pond, or some failures of that pond. We authorized some work in the inlet, in the structures associated with that pond. We also authorized some work on the discharge end of that stormwater retention pond and that process, that stormwater process. However, when we authorized that work, not all the work was completed by the contractor at the time. So what's left is the discharge end of that pond, between the pond and the neighboring creek or stream or river area. That never got fixed. We certainly didn't pay for it either, but it never did get fixed. So as we were reviewing our wetland restoration project, which is in the neighboring area, again, it got brought to our attention that work was never completed, because I guess I didn't realize that, or I didn't know that. I just assumed all the work was done with that. So I had the public works staff go out there and evaluate it and solicit a quote from a different contractor. So the quote that you have in front of you is for $18,040. The work area is highlighted in your packet, and I can scroll down to it here real quickly. But again, I do recommend that we move forward with making these repairs to this pond and cleaning that area up. It's really more, in my opinion, it's kind of normal maintenance that needs to be done on these stormwater retention ponds. This pond is likely, Josh, I don't know if you have an estimate, but that pond is probably close to 40 years old now, or 30 years old. So the work area really is in between the discharge of the pond and the creek area here. We'll be regrading that, installing some culvert and some ends of the culvert, etc. So again, to make those improvements that are needed. It would be funded through our streets CIP, our Streets Capital Improvement Fund. That's where we do all our stormwater repairs through that Streets CIP fund. We do annually set aside dollars for stormwater repairs, but we can also use fund balance. There is significant fund balance available for these maintenance repairs. That being said, I do have Josh Eckstein here from Bolton Mink as well. I can answer any questions you may have on this project, or I could answer the best I can as well. Are there any questions for me?
Does that connect up to Shady Creek too?
Shady Creek does not discharge. This is not a part of that stormwater area. It is strictly Pheasant Run.
Okay,
Maybe a bit of Linden might ultimately make it down here in that watershed, but the bulk of it will be Pheasant Run, excuse me. Our initial work that was completed was on this structure right here that I'm circling with my mouse. That structure was failing and causing backups, etc., of that stormwater, and that did get repaired. But again, the discharge end of the project did not.
Well, what's the process to restore it, or what are we actually doing?
So again, this won't be a restoration. This is not the wetland restoration project. This is strictly just fixing the pipe that I think, in general terms, is the overflow. for
It's
this
nothing
pond.
with the pond itself.
It's not. It's just the overflow structure. So once the pond gets to a certain level, then it'll discharge into that creek.
Yeah, the elevation of that pipe controls the water level in the pond, and the downstream side of that pipe is kind of falling apart, and there's erosion there as well.
Any other questions or discussions? Then I'll ask for a motion of the stormwater retention pond.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to approve a job estimate from Jewel Contracting in the amount of $18,040 to provide services related to the cleaning and restoration of the stormwater retention pond located on the property associated with parcel identification number 21.105.0420 in the Harvest Circle neighborhood.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Or any questions?
One question. When would the work begin?
There's a likelihood that will still be completed this year.
I'll make the second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next motion, under new business, is the Main Avenue Utility Extension. Adam?
Sure. So in early September, Councilmember Quas notified us of a question that was posed to her from the property owner at 126th Street regarding a possible utility extension for his parcel, which is ultimately 180th or 180 Main Avenue. So that property owner ultimately built a building on that parcel that is not served by city utilities, but has the expectation that it can be served by city utilities. So currently, city utilities are not in the area extending toward 180 Main Avenue. This item was discussed extensively between the property owner and city council back in approximately 2012, I think, 2013, somewhere in that time frame. Ultimately, then the project did not proceed for various reasons. Again, so now it was reapproached by Councilmember Quast, the property owner, in September. The city council discussed it at work session in September and then asked me to get involved and meet with the property owner and determine what was needed. So over the last 2 work sessions then, we discussed as a city council, and ultimately the city council has determined that they want to proceed with the installation, or at least getting pricing on the installation of these utilities from 6th Street to 180th Main Avenue. So the request in front of us this evening then is to solicit the quotes, or to solicit quotes for this project. Also to obtain permits, approvals from the county, Minnesota Department of Health, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Again, solicit the quotes, And then ultimately, if the quotes come back favorable, we could award the contracts, et cetera, in February with the spring, early summer construction timeframe. With that being said, I do have Josh Exton here of Bolton Mink, the city engineer, to answer any questions that you may have or offer any more discussion that's needed. Mr. Exton.
Yep, great discussion, Adam. The only thing I guess I would offer there is a water stub that was completed as part of the 6th Street improvements a number of years ago that we would be connecting to, and then extending towards 7th Street on the south side of Main Avenue. So we will be impacting Main Avenue, but just a portion of it, just the southern portion. And then we'll be extending the sewer and water services to that 180 Main Avenue property from the main that'll be located on the south side of Main Avenue.
So the water and sewer utilities, Josh, would both be on the south side of that road. They would not be in the road, they would be in the road right-of-way designation area.
Correct, within the road right-of-way, but on the south side of the existing pavement.
Okay. So there'd be minor street work done at the project, as Josh stated, just to tie in. But ultimately, most of the impact would be in green space.
And then we would size, of course, the main to be able to serve properties to the south in the future if they would so choose or want to connect.
Right, so that, what Josh is alluding to, the project would be sized with enough capacity to serve this parcel as well as potentially this parcel if needed. Both these parcels would be the only other properties potentially impacted by this. And there would be an opportunity for us to recover some costs at that time if we wanted to levy that for those property owners.
So the facility on the corner, the Oshu property, does not currently have city water and sewer?
So this is the property reference right here, 136th Street. So that does not have city utilities as well. And this parcel right here is currently not in the city limits and is not served by public utilities as well. So it could impact those parcels as well, positively impact them. Again, with the expectation this project to be less than $175,000 in total cost, we can go through the solicitation of quote process versus a competitive bid process per state statute.
The property owner also indicated to us that he had water and sewer run from that one building all the way to the south.
You are correct.
Was that validated with the elevations and the like?
I did speak with the property owner, and he's having the contractor that supposedly installed the utilities put together some information to send to me. I haven't seen it yet, but I guess that's in process. I'll likely get it next week, is what he indicated.
Right, we're trying to get it. We just haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Now, the understanding, the conversation that we had during the work session with the property owner is that he would bear any costs associated with installing pipe from his building to the road right of way, which he is make us understand is already there. But again, that would be his cost if it's not. And then our agreement or our conversation at the work session included him bearing the cost going from his property line to the south side of the road. So our project costs would reflect all those costs, and then I would propose that we draft a memo of understanding that clarifies that those costs then would be passed to him, meaning the cost of installing the pipe from his property line to the south side of the road.
And and I know they have true intentions of doing this, but they did a while back.
Right.
I'd hate to see him
Right.
stop and not install the
Right.
water and stuff that we've put in there.
So where I'm at in this process is the reason the way I want to propose this, or how I want this to timeline out, is that we solicit the quotes, we get some project costs, some solid project costs, then we include those costs for his section in a memo of understanding, and prior to us awarding the project, we would have a memo of understanding signed between the city of Winsted and the property owner, committing to him to his costs, committing us to our costs, and then ultimately approving the project. And ultimately, if he decides those projects, or he doesn't want to pay those costs, then we can decide if we want to continue or not at that point. And we still have the opportunity to not award contracts.
And because we're under winter suspension, I mean, this couldn't happen until spring anyway, so we have plenty of time to go through all those steps.
It really, tonight, we're just authorizing city staff to continue the process in terms of gathering the quotes. So we're not investing a lot of these costs that we need now to occur in the next few months have already been expensed the last time we looked at this in 2012. So there's not a lot of additional costs associated with this step.
The construction plan set and the quote documents were prepared in 2014, so we're just kind of adding dates to them, changing dates.
Adam, did I understand you to say that the property at 130 was not hooked up to sewer and water?
My assumption is, maybe I got the wrong assumption. It's in the city limits, so I guess I should assume that it is on city water and sewer. But I don't see a curb stop here on my GIS. That doesn't mean there's not one there. It could mean that we just didn't get it located.
If they were, would we not have a record of them paying water and sewer?
Right, and I don't have that information in front of me. My assumption is, I should restate my assumption. My assumption is they are, because our ordinance requires all parcels in the city limits to be connected. My assumption is they are. But I would have to review that.
We should check.
Any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion.
I do have a question. Maybe you said, when would the work proceed?
Well, likely as long as the memo of understanding is signed, it would be a spring construction, so
Okay.
May.
Mr. Eckstein, how long would you anticipate a project this would take?
3 weeks, so it's 3 to 4
Okay,
weeks.
so not too extensive. Now, Mr. Stocko, if you don't mind, Steve had asked me a really good question during the work session. We're also looking at some storm sewer work potentially in 2023. You had drafted me a memo that I preliminarily presented to the city council as part of our budgeting discussions. Now, would there be any value in including, would we get better project costs if we included some of that work with this work, or is that just totally different scopes that you wouldn't see any value in that?
It's possible. I think we have to evaluate the 175,000 cap for quotes.
Right, then we'd have to go,
That would-
then we'd have to
which is-
bid it
We
over.
have to do a solicit bids, which we might still have time to do, so maybe that's something we could talk about internally.
Okay. Well, I think we can still get approval this evening to proceed, and if ultimately we decide to change direction, because we do find that there could be value in that, then we can reapproach the city council and make that request. Does that sound fair enough, city council, or?
Yeah. Yep.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the plans and specifications for Main Avenue Utility Extension project and authorize Bolton and Mink Incorporated to advertise for the quotes for the project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the department report from the Winstead Police Department. Chief Held.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having me. Like in reports past, this is essentially just sort of a breakdown of what we've been up to, other than our duties as police officers. Last time I was here would have been April 5th, I believe. Since then, I had the opportunity to participate in the Minnesota Post Board. So Post is a peace officer standards training board that regulates our police officer licenses in the state of Minnesota. I got to go through an audit with them. It was a successful audit. I assisted, or I should say Officer Lammers assisted with the chamber Easter egg hunt. We always get a great turnout for that, or the chamber does. A little chilly, but a lot of people come out. We held the annual liquor license seminar. We have representatives from each establishment that come to that, and Amanda, our deputy clerk, assists with that as well. I attended a Winstock tabletop session with representatives from Winstock and the McLeod County Sheriff's Office. In May, Officer Nelson attended firearms instructor certification training, so he's a certified firearms instructor for our department, Tyler Nelson. Officer Vick attended defensive tactics instructor certification training, so defensive tactics is our use of force. It's the methods and maneuvers we use to control people without doing harm to people, hopefully. So she's an instructor in that now with our agency. Officers attended EMT and EMR, so that's emergency medical technician. Myself and Officer Lammers are EMTs. Officer Vick and Officer Nelson are EMRs, so we have training for that. Officers participated in stop stick training. Earlier this year, you authorized the purchase of stop sticks. That's a tire deflation device for squads. We did purchase those. Officer Nelson actually took it upon himself to become an instructor in them, and he instructed us with them, and they're in our squad cars.
Have you used them yet?
No,
Okay.
we've trained with them, but they are very nice in comparison to what we're using. A lot more user friendly. I say we, but Officer Lammers held our annual bike rodeo. He does a great job with the bike rodeo at the elementary school. Lots of kids come out. Second year in a row, we gave away 4 bikes thanks to the chamber. I believe RAM was a donator this year, maybe Waste Management as well, but our businesses are wonderful. At evidence room, we had our first evidence room audit completed. So we had the McLeod County Sheriff's Office, a detective with their agency, come out, and he pulled, I believe it was 10 different case numbers in the last forever of our police department. And Officer Lammers was tasked with finding that evidence, and we passed the audit, so that's a good thing. But it was a very good experience. In May, we also held the DARE graduation for the 5th and 6th graders. We had a combined class this year. I just want to note on that too, if I hadn't already, but thank you to Millburn Manufacturing. They donated funds. So this year we did something a little different. We did not go to the Twins game. There's a lot going on in Minneapolis, so I thought it'd be better for kids to spend time with their families. So Trevor donated funds for movie coupons so kids could take their families to a movie. That was a great thing. Officers in May also participated in firearms qualification training. We assisted with the Memorial Day event, which we do every year. And we assisted in the administrative assistant hiring, Madison Feeke, who's doing a very good job for what she is doing for our department. June, Officer Lammers attended emergency vehicle operations training. That's driving school. I think Councilmember Hendricks remember. That's a fun training to go to. We look forward to that one. So, and we use their vehicles. We don't use our vehicles. But participated in child safety seat belt clinic with the Lustbury Fire Department. Assisted in planning and providing for security for Windstock. That was in June. Participated in county planning group for the new radio implementation. I know City Administrator Burkholz, I'm sure, has informed you, but we are upgrading our Armor portable radios, and with the county, and with that, we're planning talk groups. So that's just a fancy way of saying how are we going to communicate with each other. So we're working on that. Last time I talked to Sheriff Langenfeld, I believe after the first of the year, we should be getting our new radios. That would go for the fire department as well. I've been attending county-wide multi-discipline child protection meetings, which is a newer thing. It's child protection professionals as well as law enforcement, probations, getting us all together just to talk about current trends and how we can better assist families in the county. July, we began the budget review process with City Administrator Burkholz, participated in the City Safety Committee meeting, attended countywide probation meetings. So similar to what we've been doing with the child protection, we're doing probations as well. Assisted with providing security and getting the escort of the Wall That Heals in the end of July. August, we held, again, Officer Lammers, he puts in the work for this, so our Winston Night Out with the fire department, he does a great job with that. A lot of people came out. We had several agencies that came up to assist. For you, those of you that were not there, we had the McLeod County Sheriff's Office, we had McLeod County Public Health came up, Department of Natural Resources, State Patrol, I believe it was Lifelink helicopter, I take that back, North Memorial helicopter, I believe, came out. But we had a lot of folks there that came out. It was a great event. We began the hiring process for part-time police officers. New mobile computers were installed in the squad cars. You authorized a purchase for those last October. They finally got out of the bay and they were installed into our squad, so those are working. Attended annual training and a tour of the bank, which is a great thing we do every year because they have turnover as we have turnover, and officers get an opportunity to meet the staff there. September, officers again attended EMT and EMR refresher training at the fire hall. We do that in conjunction with the fire department. Officers participating in firearms qualification. Officer Vick attended the Chiefs of Police Association Leadership Academy. Officer Lammers has also gone to that in the past. It's a good training for leadership for one, but it also, you network. You come in contact with other people in like positions in other departments, and networking is so important in our profession. Officer Nelson, he attended search warrant training through the BCA, attended Winstock EMS planning meeting at the Winston Fire Department with City Administrator Burkholz, the fire department. Officers attended annual defensive tactics training, and that was our first training that Officer Vick put on here in the Vollmer room. Holy Trinity did allow us to use their gymnastics mats, which was great, and the room worked out really well. October, we participated in I got to participate in 2 Minnesota BCA audits. It was the first time going through those. It's IT audits and data information audits. We did successfully pass those. Officer Lammers attended the annual crime prevention conference up in, I think it was at Breezy Point. He got a lot of good information from that conference. I believe that's the first time he attended, but he said it was a good training. I assisted the Howard Lake Winston Waverly Elementary Walk to School Day. The sheriff's office also came up and helped with that, where the kids get dropped off at a location in town and then they walk together to the elementary school. I have been attending virtual training series through the Chiefs Police Association, various topics from the new marijuana laws to the para retirement concerns that are coming into the future. I've been doing those online. Officer Lammers, early in October, attended defibrillator training, and I may or may not have talked to you about this already, but due to a grant that a very large grant the University of Minnesota received, their goal is to outfit all squad cars in the state of Minnesota with defibrillators. And we currently do have defibrillators, and we've had them for some time, but we're actually going to be replacing them with these new defibrillators. So he attended that training, and then he is going to be able to train us in the use of those. I believe those are expected to be here by the end of the year. With that, then, our existing defibrillators still work. So we're going to want to find a home for those. And there's a couple public areas that we've talked about as well. And there's also a program that you can donate them to businesses in the community. It's just done through the University of Minnesota because they want to track, how these are being used. We assisted with the Holy Trinity Marathon, participated in a fire drill at the Holy Trinity. I attended the Wright County Safe Schools meeting at the Howard Lake High School. Again, it's a good meeting. You get a lot of disciplines at that same meeting to discuss safety for the school district. We assisted with the business trick or treat held downtown, and attended annual safety training at the City Hall here on October 31st. Just in November, so we're just into the month, attended the budget workshop, began the annual review process for the police officers. And just in the others, we do have an officer that's currently out on injury right now. So we are short-staffed. Some of you may know I did move to nights. It's been a couple weeks. I do not have a timeline on that. Cases, we have been working on, I'll say several being 3 to 4, not to alarm people, but larger cases that have, when I say larger time-consuming cases, I know I've touched on that in the past, but I think it's just important to touch on because, an agency our size, we like to be fully efficient on our own, and we pride ourselves in that, and I think we have for a long time. But with that comes, a lot of time gets invested into these cases. But with that, we've had help from the Sheriff's Office, specifically the BCA. Carver County Sheriff's Office has been great, a great help to us as well. The joint mutual aid agreement, which you have passed for 2023, I just wanted to hit on that. It overall, I think, has worked really well for the night officers, so they aren't on call during the day. There is an officer covering that they don't have to worry about that. It's a morale booster. I know Adam has stated that, but for the officers, it is a very big deal. Up until this point to today, Winston, our department, has responded to 23 calls in Lester Prairie. Lester Prairie has responded to 33 calls in Winston during this time period, and that's primarily emergency. And the reason I say primarily emergencies, everyone thinks 911's an emergency, which it is. But sometimes people call in and there's certain things that just need to be addressed when they come in. And we try to do that for Lester, as I believe they try to do that for us. Upcoming events, the winter parking ban is in effect. It's been working great. I've been on night, so I've been fielding the calls, but people are calling. We ask that people keep calling. When the snow flies, we will be issuing the citations. You know, we've been trying to do the warnings. I talked a lot. That's all I have. Do you have any questions for me or the department?
This is a broad question, but level of crime compared to years past?
I would say it ebbs and flows. I wouldn't say we are any busier with crime than we would be any other time. It just sort of comes and goes. I would say just, and so do investigations. I know years ago there were some larger investigations. I think with technology, the main thing with the investigations is there's so many more opportunities for obtaining search warrants, and that is time consuming. But then the data you get back, the time to go through the data, whether it be cell phones, computers, surveillance cameras. I mean, everything we do is always being monitored and recorded. Well, then what we do is gather all that information, and then we have to go through that information. So on the crime side of things, I don't think it's any busier. I would urge people, though, to lock up their vehicles. As things get more expensive, crimes of opportunity are more available. People try to use that to get a quick buck.
I know as a department, you guys know Carrie Narcan, right?
Yes.
And have you had any opportunities to use that in the last year?
Yep. So I've used it. I shouldn't say I used it, but mine was used. I was fortunate. I had a call where there was actually the reporting party was a nurse. So while I was doing the AED and the CPR, I was able to instruct her on to administer it. So there was that. I believe there's 2 or 3 other times we have utilized it as well. Yep. And the honest answer will be, was it successful? And the answer will be no. But it is a great tool.
And unfortunately, now they have fentanyl that they call gray fentanyl.
Ghost fentanyl, and it is a real thing, and it is out there. And I'm glad you brought up the fentanyl thing. I know Bloomington has been doing a great thing in the media, and that's a big thing with this fentanyl, is to talk about it, because it is a real thing. The other thing I just want to note on the fentanyl, to talk about the ghost fentanyl, Narcan will not work with it. It's not working with it when these people are using it. But I don't know if you've been following the news, but I can think of 3 just now in the last 2 weeks of children under 10 that have passed away from touching or ingesting fentanyl. That's a scary thing, and not saying it's just out there and about, but it's just something to be cognizant about, because that fentanyl is out there. I'm not telling people to be paranoid, but it's just one of those things that does happen, so.
Just by taking it?
You can ingest it by absorption, yes. Yeah. So we have protocols in our evidence room too, because we do have fentanyl in our evidence room. We come in contact with it. I won't say frequently, but we come in contact with it, and we have procedures to keep everyone safe. So I don't worry about that, but it's just something the more knowledge is one of those things. It's just important to know that stuff.
Well, I would like to say that being in my position that I'm in, I have received many compliments for our police department. And what people have talked about is that they absolutely love to see the police on duty almost all the time. And they are very comforted by that. So I want to congratulate you and your force for doing an outstanding job.
Thank you. I will pass that on to the officers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
We come to the open forum, and I do not see anybody out there that wants to use us. So I'm going to ask Adam if he has any announcements.
Sure, I have a couple meetings that I would like to make mention of. Tomorrow, Councilmember Stockwell and myself have our monthly general engineering meeting. We'll review again that storm sewer work with our engineer and see if we can find any efficiencies, as well as costs associated between that and that utility extension project. The Chamber of Commerce is meeting here at City Hall on Thursday afternoon at noon. And some of the members of city staff and elected council members are going to be presenting or discussing topics with the Chamber of Commerce. Also on Thursday evening, we are scheduled, meaning myself, Councilmember Stockel, and Councilmember Oleg are scheduled to meet with Winston Township. We're on their agenda to discuss future growth areas of the city of Winsted and what that means and how we can work through those needs for future growth. And they also have some questions regarding our discharge line with our sanitary sewer plant. And then lastly, I'd like to take this opportunity, and it's very difficult for me, but you have a letter in front of you. It's a resignation letter from me. I have been presented a very unique opportunity in my career that ultimately I just don't think I can pass up. So again, it's a very difficult decision to make, but I am effectively this evening resigning as the city administrator of the city of Winsted. My last date right now would be January 13th, then of 2023. So I would ask that you consider a motion then to officially accept that resignation.
I'm not going to ask for it.
And again, it pains me greatly. I thoroughly enjoyed my 4 years here. You guys, as a city council, have given me numerous opportunities to be successful, and I thank you for that. You've been a great group of people to work with. I know Winston will continue to be successful because of the leadership that's in place on the city council and within the staff. So again, it's very difficult for me to say this, but I am officially resigning this evening as the city administrator.
A motion to accept the resignation of the city administrator.
And I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now, before we close this evening, I'm assuming we'll want to have a conversation at our next council meeting regarding session planning and what that looks like. So I will prepare some documents on that and have that included on the agenda then, okay? Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is closed.